OnePlus Nord, most premium experience. If there's one thing we've been able to rely on in the fast-moving world of smartphones in recent times, it's that every time OnePlus releases a smartphone, it goes straight to the top of the charts for value. This year's OnePlus 8 strayed further away from OnePlus budget roots, but the newer OnePlus Nord is much closer in value with what we've come to expect from the Taiwanese company. It's essentially flawless at this price too. Sacrifices have to be made in order to bring the price down. It's almost half the price of the OnePlus 8, but for the most part, these cuts have been made in the right places. The screen is flat, rather than curved, and it lacks any official IP rating. Otherwise, the OnePlus Nord is as good as phones costing hundreds more. It's a smart-looking smartphone with a total of 6 cameras and one of the latest 5G-enabled chipsets, the octa-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 765G. Where it counts, the OnePlus Nord is a welcome return to form, and a cracking choice for anyone put off by those flagship prices. Google Pixel 4a, the mid-range phone with the best camera. Yes, you can buy an inexpensive phone with multiple rear cameras, but Google's cost-conscious Pixels are proof that more isn't always better. The Pixel 4a uses the same primary sensors and processing tech that the flagship Pixel 4 does, so you'll get a very similar experience when grabbing photos and video with this handset. In fact, the photos we took with the Pixel 4a were nearly indistinguishable from those taken by the Pixel 4. The only thing the 4a lacks is the Pixel 4's extra rear telephoto lens, but we think that omission is justified by the 4a's much more affordable price tag. Beyond the cameras, the Pixel 4a runs on a Snapdragon 730G and 6GB of RAM. While it doesn't have the speed of a flagship, it won't slow you down either. Google also upped the storage to 128GB, which is double the amount that the Pixel 3a had. Plus, Google still managed to include a headphone jack and a fingerprint sensor on this handset. It's also worth mentioning that, being a first-party Android device, the Pixel 4a will be one of the first in line for the latest software updates, and Google has already promised 3 years' worth of software and security updates to the handset. This time around, you don't have to choose from different sizes like you did with the Pixel 3a. There's only one variant of the Pixel 4a right now, and it includes a 5.8-inch Full HD Plus OLED display that dominates the front of the handset. It looks and feels a lot more modern than any $350 smartphone has the right to. While the 5G variant may arrive before the end of the year, it's probably still safe to grab the standard Pixel 4a, unless you absolutely need to be one of the first on the 5G bandwagon. Google Pixel 3a, still great. The Pixel 3a might not be the all-singing all-dancing mid-range option, and in some ways there are better phones at the same price. However, you probably have different reasons for wanting this phone. The Pixel 3a will appeal to those wanting a cheaper option to get Google's design and pure Android across areas such as the camera and the OS as a whole. The highlight is the camera, and while you'll find phones with more megapixels out there, unless you pay a lot more, you won't get snaps this good. The Pixel 3a's screen is superb too. It's an OLED panel with punchy colors, excellent viewing angles, and no notch to speak of. On the software side, a pure Android experience and consistent updates for years to come have long been one of the best reasons to buy a Google device. Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, Samsung's best value handset. The Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is one of the cheaper options on this list, and is a great pick if you want to save a bit more money without sacrificing too many features. The star of the show here is the 6.5-inch OLED display, which, like some of the pricier phones around, has a quick 120Hz refresh rate for smooth scrolling and responsive gaming. You'll notice that quick screen constantly, as it just makes the phone feel a lot smoother than you'd expect. It's a quality panel in other ways too. The OLED tech gives you inky blacks and vivid colors, while the 1080p resolution is more than sharp enough. Inside the phone you'll find a Snapdragon 750G chipset, paired with 6 or 8GB RAM. You've got 128GB storage too, and a slot for expansion, something you won't find on the Galaxy S21. Another impressive feature is battery life, which we found easily lasted through the day and then some. It's a 4500 mAh cell, and charges up via the included 25 watts fast charger. On the back of the phone you'll find a good main 64-megapixel camera with optical image stabilization, along with a couple of less impressive secondary cameras, and an adequate 32-megapixel selfie camera. There aren't too many sacrifices here. You get an IP-rated body, various color options, and Samsung promises 4 years of security updates. Samsung Galaxy M51, great cameras and a massive battery. The Galaxy M51 is the latest mid-range smartphone from Samsung and is equipped with a huge 7000 mAh battery with 25 watts fast charge support. The reverse charging feature is also available on this phone. This phone also boasts a 6.7-inch Super AMOLED Plus display, with an aspect ratio of 20:9, however, it doesn't offer a higher refresh rate like other phones on this list. While we were used to seeing the Exynos 9611 in phones of this price range, the Snapdragon 730G chipset is a more than welcome entry in the Galaxy M51. And with Samsung's ever-so-optimized One UI, you can expect good performance on this phone. The quad rear camera setup sports a 64-megapixel primary camera, a 12-megapixel ultra-wide-angle lens, a 5-megapixel macro lens, and a 5-megapixel depth sensor. For selfies, you get a 32-megapixel front camera. While there are better phones than this in our list of best mid-range smartphones, its peculiar mix of specs still makes the Galaxy M51 a good choice in its price range. Apple iPhone SE 2020, Apple's best value iPhone. The iPhone SE is a phone devoted to function over form, prioritizing raw performance and camera capabilities over design or aesthetics, all in the name of hitting its $399 starting price. That makes it a very un-Apple iPhone, but that's unlikely to help it win over Android users, who can still get a lot more for less, by resisting the Apple allure, with the exception of the impressive inclusion of the top-tier A13 processor at a mid-range price, along with luxuries like wireless charging and waterproofing. It's hard to entirely forgive the choice to save money on a budget 720p LCD display and dated design, and you'll be committed to carrying a battery pack with you every day. Still, if you want a reliable camera, fast performance, and guaranteed iOS updates for years to come, without breaking the bank, then this is the iPhone for you. OnePlus 8T, an exceptional phone at a fantastic price. If all you care about is the raw tech specs of the phone you buy, OnePlus's higher-end models should always be near the top of your shortlist. The company's previous flagship phone was the OnePlus 8T, and with the next model now out, prices have dropped to the point where it fits into our mid-range category. That's a great deal for buyers, since the spec sheet basically reads like a geek's wish list from a few months ago. There's a Snapdragon 865 chipset, up to 12 GB of RAM, and 256 GB of storage. You also get a stunning 6.55 inches 120Hz AMOLED display, and a 48-megapixel rear camera array with optical image stabilization. The 4500 mAh battery typically lasts well over a day of moderate to heavy use. If you need to top it up on a quick layover or coffee break, the bundled fast charger will get it from dead to nearly 70% in half an hour, although it'll slow down quite a bit after that to avoid damaging the battery. Camera performance is better than earlier models when shooting with the main sensor. The image stabilization helps, both for video and stills, and there are warmer colors, more detail, and less noise than photos from previous OnePlus phones. All in all, the OnePlus 8T is a very appealing phone, and would have been our top pick if it took better photos. Still, if you want a high-spec smartphone for hundreds of dollars less than most other companies are charging, it really deserves to be right near the top of your list. OnePlus 7T, best flagship killer. If all you care about is the raw tech specs of the phone, OnePlus will pretty much always be at the top of your list. The company made its name selling devices with the best hardware inside, at a cost unmatched by anybody else. That's become less true as other Chinese manufacturers have entered the market, but even so, the OnePlus 7T has all the power you could hope for. There's a Snapdragon 855, 8 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage. You also get a stunning 6.55 inches 90Hz AMOLED display, and a 48-megapixel rear camera with optical image stabilization. If you want a flagship smartphone, for several $100s less, the OnePlus 7T really deserves to be right at the top of your list. Samsung Galaxy A51, iPhone SE alternative. Like other handsets in the Galaxy A series, this Samsung smartphone is all about testing experimental upcoming features for flagships. That means it delivers a flagship-like experience at a fraction of the cost. The A51 is an impressive, affordable smartphone that not only looks good, but also has a great screen and more than enough power for most people, even if its processor isn't as fancy as its siblings. The 6.5-inch OLED screen is a joy to use for watching your favorite videos, with a sharp resolution and great colors and contrast. It also takes great pictures for the price, and has an above-average battery life. Big, powerful, and good-looking, Samsung's Galaxy A51 is a no-brainer for the budget-conscious buyer. Samsung Galaxy M31, the cheapest Samsung you should buy. The Samsung Galaxy M31 can be labeled as a cheaper alternative to the Galaxy A51. However, being labeled as a cheaper alternative also means that the device does cut corners in some areas. And with the M31, I must say huge sacrifices have been made with their design and build quality. Its polycarbonate back and the plastic frame does not give out a good vibe. And it does not look that much sturdy either. Similarly, despite having a Super AMOLED display with full HD resolution, Samsung has not provided an in-display fingerprint sensor on this one. But that might be the part of the cost-cutting. That being said, the camera is comparable to that of the A51. It has a 48-megapixel primary lens that performs better than that on any phone at the price range of $250. However, the A51's primary lens is quite unbeatable, and M31's is not up to the task either. The Galaxy M31 uses the same Exynos 9611 chipset, so performance-wise both devices fall on the mid-range category. The best thing about this device is its huge 6000 mAh battery. That's quite outstanding. I mean, the autonomy on this device is simply great. However, it will take you a significant amount of time to charge up the battery, as it only supports 15 watts charging. Realme 6, Best Mid-Range All-Rounder. The Realme 6 is one of the most groundbreaking proposals this year for the mid-range. It costs just over $200 and offers along the way a 6.5-inch panel with 90 Hz refresh rate. It is one of the few mid-range devices with this refresh rate, accompanied by a fairly solvent MediaTek Helio G90T processor, at the height in many aspects of the Snapdragon 730G, a 4300 mAh battery with 30 watts fast charge, and 64 megapixel main camera along with 3 other sensors. The plastic build isn't our favorite, but we couldn't ask for more at this price. It does offer Gorilla Glass 3 protection for the screen, and P2i water repellent coating for the internals. So it seems we still got more than we bargained for. Xiaomi Redmi Note 9 Pro, Best Value for Money. The Redmi Note 9 Pro is the cheapest entry on our list. However, don't let its price tag fool you, as the device offers the best value for money. Its design is not spectacular, but it isn't an eyesore either. It has an IPS panel with full HD plus resolution. Moreover, the display has a punch hole to house the selfie camera. The quad camera setup with a 48-megapixel primary lens is kind of a hit and miss. It does not do as good a job as the M31, but it is capable nonetheless. Under the hood, the Snapdragon 720G offers good battery efficiency. Paired with a 5020 mAh battery, it also means that the device has great autonomy. Xiaomi Mi 9T Pro, an excellent affordable phone that's easy to recommend. If you need a new phone that won't break the bank, the Xiaomi Mi 9T is one of the easiest phones to recommend. It combines exceptional value for money, with premium accessible design, powerful internals, and a very good stills and video camera. With this model, Xiaomi rivals the OnePlus 7T, offering flagship specs and slick design at a mid-range price. Unlike the competition, however, the Mi 9T Pro has a headphone jack, not to mention a Super AMOLED Full HD plus full-screen display, meaning there are no notches or hole punches in sight. Performance in general is excellent, particularly the gaming experience. A Snapdragon 855 processor, coupled with 6 GB of RAM, lets this phone power through benchmarks and games alike. While it doesn't quite stack up against the cream of the current crop of dedicated gaming phones, it doesn't fall far short. It's quite simply bonkers this phone sells for the money it does.